are live. Yay. Okay, so this is going to be a little different than some of the other things you see up here. It's going to be a start of a behind the scenes sort of project that we got going on. Basically, I run storyteller games, mostly Mage at the moment, but other tabletop games as well. And right now, I feel that I've got a couple different skills that different DMs don't necessarily use. At least, not that I see a whole lot of. Um, so ultimately, my goal here is to kind of show you some of my process going forward. When I run a mage game, my players are working in Roll20. Um, I use a lot of AI generated backgrounds and also photography, and I kind of create the scenes that they are in for the environment. So, for example, in Seattle at dawn, everybody uh, kind of works and operates in the Pacific Northwest Seattle area, and I've created a uh, collection of settings, um, like Pike Place Market, or um, the Vashon Unity Commune, or downtown Seattle, or Ballard, or whatever. A lot of different places. The Splintered Wand, a restaurant that no longer exists but was once in Ballard, and I just loved it so much that it just fits the mage theme. So I would create visuals for all this, and I can actually show you some of these and how they operate. Um, so let me pull up, for example, just going to show up the um, Pike Place Market. So when my players, when their characters go to Pike Place, uh, this is the this is the setting that they have, and typically what I'll do is I'll have their tokens show up, and their tokens are based on, it used to be based on photographs of different celebrities or whoever I found online that represented that character. Um, I transitioned from doing that to more um, using MetaHuman to create the character. I'm still working on learning Unreal Engine and becoming more proficient with that, so I can do even more with that, and with the settings as well. Um, but I found that just going into MetaHuman and using Photoshop to enhance and make the pictures a little better, although they're not perfect, they still can oftentimes convey the character that I want. So, for example, um, I'll go ahead and I'll show you right now. Um, I have a collection of tokens that I use for my players and NPCs, um, and you'll see that it's actually quite a lot, right? Whole bunch right there. Um, but the thing that I'm wanting to focus on right now, and let me catch back. As you can see, a lot of them are metahumans here. You've got, you know, this character Malcolm, this character Amnesia, got Mark, and I've got all my tokens kind of arranged by their different factions in the game. I'm not going to show too much of the right hand side of the screen because those are my antagonists, and the left hand side of the screen is my players. As you can see, I've got a lot of fun players going on here. Um, I don't have a metahuman for this character, for example, which is played by my partner. They uh, did say that it looked like Lucy Lawless, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab a Lucy Lawless picture and make that work. But temporarily, that works for the game. Um, but ultimately, another one of her characters is this werewolf named Alice, and I thought that, hey, look, I can use MetaHuman. I can fully create how this character looks, and um, even go so far as to give it a little bit of personality depending on the scene. So if they're coming in and it's a happy scene, here they are. If it's coming in and they are unhappy, they're angry, then they can have this kind of grumpy face. Um, and also, this character Alice happens to be a werewolf, so I also used some digital tools to make them wolfish in some ways. Um, this also happens to be a virtual avatar character, so if I end up playing the character, I can move around and actually look like the character. I oftentimes end up having to puppet players that are not actually there for their interactions with others. But so, what I'm focusing on today are the tokens, kind of the process on what I've been doing to make these tokens. And I figured I was going to take a character who is currently just using a picture of a person. This character, Killian, played by Brian Covington, who is an author and friend of mine from college. Um, this was a actual photo of him, because in Mage, oftentimes your characters are really just kind of doppelgangers of yourself. Um, and Killian, to a lesser extent, kind of fits that bill. But there's more to that character. So I am going to actually make the MetaHuman for him today. It's about time. So let me get started on this. Actually, I'm going to move this up to here because I just don't like looking off the screen. So, Brian plays Killian. Killian is this wonderful guy. As you can see, this is also one of the settings in the game that I run. This is the Liquid Haze, which is a mage hangout coffee shop, which is very appropriate for Seattle. So, first things first, let's go ahead and create the MetaHuman version. Pull my reference to the side here. There we go. So MetaHuman by Unreal Engine allows you to create a near photo quality 3D model character based on a bunch of templates and sliders to get different facial features to the way you want. By no means is it perfect, and exaggeration for certain things is a little more difficult. Like I've had characters that I've wanted to have like really big noses, and I've made it as big as possible, and it still isn't quite exactly what I want. And I'm sure it's intentional. They don't want things to go too far into caricature or whatever. So you know what? I bet you there's music playing. Bet you can hear some music. Probably coming from my phone keeps buzzing up. So sorry. There we go. Yeah, see? Better. Now you can't hear the music. Now I can't hear the music, but that's okay. I didn't necessarily need music for this. Anyway, or background noises from Roll20. So, yeah. So MetaHuman does a lot of the heavy lifting here. So I'm going to try and find a model that I think can be a good base start for Brian, um, or rather for Killian. Um, the character does have hair options that may not be available in MetaHuman. That's one of the downsides of not being proficient in Unreal Engine completely. Is that I haven't been able to pull resources and use MetaHuman to fully customize these characters. Again, this is mostly just quick bit of Photoshop after creating a face and using what I can. So maybe there's a lot going on here. Let's see. Who do I think will be a good start? Well, Killian himself as a player doesn't need to look exactly like Brian, so I can get away with a few things. Killian's background as a character is that he is a or was a gang member from Atlanta, and upon his awakening, got involved in some pretty heavy shit. Joined the Euthanatos tradition, so he's definitely got a lot of that Jor, that death energy. He was used as a assassin in the Ascension War, um, but the character himself is a little bit more life affirming. One of the things that I like about the more modern interpretations of Mage, in particular, like Mage 20, is that the Athanatos are not all about death. They are about the karmic wheel. They're about making the transition from life to death to renewal and rebirth. Um, and so in the past, it's always been interpreted as they can know and sense when someone's going is supposed to die, and so they can speed that along. Um, but there's also the other side of things, like when is somebody supposed to live? When when do you protect life and keep the wheel moving after death? So from death to rebirth, how do you help that process? So a lot of euthanatos have started to, or euthanatoi have started to kind of move into that. They've even changed their tradition name to be more um, in line with their ideals, not just focusing on death, the euthanatos, but more on the overall vibe. The Chakravanti is what they've started calling themselves. I like this one. Like I said, it's not perfectly looking like Brian, but I like that it's different than some of the other bases I've used. Yeah, I like them. We're gonna start here. We're gonna start. This is where Killian's gonna get his start. Okay, so this is all being done remotely. So all this rendering is actually being done on a different server somewhere else. And when you sign up for this service, it's free, but uh, you are using your Unreal account, and it is, and you put in a token, and you get like an hour of work time. Um, Depending on how busy it is, you can be sitting there for a long time waiting for your turn. Um, and I really wish that they would have a more local option for this. Some computers can actually run it, so it wouldn't be too bad. But you do get this latency from the server to your workstation, and oftentimes it can cause artifacting and some just general weirdness. Um, but here is our template. This is where we're going to start. Um, should bring up the character description for our dude. Actually, there we go. So I have a lot of characters. So if I have any official Killian LaRue, no, I don't. But do have this quick guide. Mail prep, you can whole farm here. Hold on. This is my shared area. Okay. So I was sharing this with artists for various things. But yeah, here we go. Killian. So Killian, according to this, is 5'11", 165 pounds. So thin. Um, Male, black, short to medium length dreads or braids, and also purple. Not listed here, but they're purple. Apparently in his late 20s. The character itself is actually a bit older, but that's kind of the benefit of being a mage. Like a lot of them tend to look younger. Um, Tends to wear hip hop style clothing, couture, has a duffel bag, and is a street artist. Here's a original sketch of the character. Um, Definitely in line with the vibe. So let's talk about proportions. So thin, average height, 5'11" is about average. Not going to be perfect, but there we go. We're going to make him thin. We're probably going to move the head scale down a bit. Let's bring it down. Yeah, that looks about right. And this is not terribly important, but I'll have him. I like that. We'll work on the colors later because we're going to be working on the face, the pants, and let's put him in some straight jeans and shoes. Always go with the boots for a lot of the characters. Again, you got some limited options here. If I were being a little more picky, if I was actually modeling this myself in Unreal, clearly I would make different choices. But here we are. These are the choices that we have. It's somewhat limited, but we're good to go. So let's go with the facial feature. As you can see, there's some artifacting going on because we're, in the stream from the surface, from the actual rendering. Okay. So he's currently got this long, wavy goatee. I think I'm going to try and find a little bit more short curly. Now, Killian has a bit of a swagger to him. He's definitely more. It's kind of like my beard here, but fuller and much nicer. um, yeah, so you know what? I'm going to keep the smaller goatee, the long wavy one. I think that fits the character's swagger. It fits kind of Brian's uh, style. I think that'll work. As far as the mustache is concerned, yeah, he's definitely gonna have a mustache. He's gonna have probably a bit of a fuller mustache, not that pencil mustache. Yeah, definitely groomed, short. I think these are mislabeled because this is clearly thicker and longer than the medium. So yeah, we'll go with this, which looks better, even though it's labeled wrong. All right. Eyelashes. You know what? I kind of like the idea of him just not having any. You know, gives him a little bit of that odd mage vibe. Not everybody has eyelashes. Um, Eyebrows. Probably going with something a little. Let's see if he had any. we'll go with thin. We'll go with a thin, or not as thick. So, go the full Whoopi Goldberg and not have any. But yeah, let's go with the short flat. Here we go. Yeah, I like it. And then the hair. These are all just broad strokes. We're not getting into the structure of the face just yet. I'm just kind of getting like ideas for the hair and facial features. Um, so here's where things get really kind of sucky. Um, the character is supposed to have these kind of short dreadlocks, and there are no good dreadlock options. Um, we've got these, braids, and we've got, big wavy straight hair, and then we got like short coils. So I've got a few characters using. Um, but not a lot on the curly African uh, hair. Um, we've got lots of options for, you know, short hair and straight hair. And to be honest and fair, this is a row of like 30 hairstyles, and there's thousands of hairstyles out there, and probably even more types of hair. So um, it's hard to you know represent all of humanity in a simple scroll box. Um, Again, another reason why I'm looking to do more with Unreal Engine and more direct editing. And I have seen that there are a lot of better options for hair. Um, for Killian, I'm gonna say that he's rich. He's very affluent, and he's got a lot of people assisting him. I think that he could very likely have this style hair from time to time. These braids, I could do him dirty. I could give him this. Just be like, hey man, you're getting old. Give him the full. No, no, I don't think so. I think we're gonna go with this for now. Um, it's looking a little like Exhibit. Um, what we'll do is we'll use this as the base. Um, like I said, someday in the future, I'll change the hair to match the character more. But for now, this will work. Um, so, and when I do this process, I used to be very um, like all over the place, but I've actually learned that I work best going from the bottom of the menu up. So I start with the body, get the proportions, and then I work from the beard up to the hair. I don't know why that works for me. It just does. Oh, and of course the details. What color is this hair? And it is definitely dyed. And it's definitely going to be purple. Um, Maybe not his beard, but yeah, it's a bit over purple. We're gonna bring that value down a bit, make it a little bit more. Let's see, not gonna be on. Sorry, kind of want it to be darker purple. Yeah, a little darker purple. Another goal of mine, and why I started using MetaHuman, is my players. They're decent actors or whatever in the role playing space. but they don't always look like their character. And if I could set it up where they were using a camera for um, virtual tabletop play, well, why not have them actually embody their character and wear their character as a mask? Um, there might be some ethical issues if you're going into like, a white person like myself, exclusively playing a black character and being, that's virtual blackface or whatever, right? But um, that's not the intent. The intent is, hey, we got some virtual avatars, and you get to play your character. I'm going to bring the beard and mustache back to standard colorization because, well, I don't think that Killian would dye his beard. I think he would just keep it as is. So we're going to keep that. And same thing with his eyebrows. We're going to keep that. And we're going to probably darken it a bit. 76.9. It's going to be a little darker. And you know what? Let's give the beard a little bit of salt and pepper. He's you know what? Never mind. I take that back. He may be in his 20s there, so at least not meant to look like that. Hair details, yes. So we can make this probably a little, yeah. Let's make it a little less rough, which gives a bit of a shine. I think 20 might be right spot, maybe 25. Maybe it was already at 25. Um, yeah, that's looking nice. I'm liking that. Okay, so we've got some basics here for Killian. Um, Now let's kind of move on to like some of the next step. Now he's not going to wear makeup. He's not a makeup wearing person. I certainly do have plenty of male characters that I've used makeup on. Makes sense for them, um, but not necessarily for this. Now, what I will do is that sometimes, if the character is that type, they will wear lip gloss, and so maybe not necessarily a full on, red lips, but we can certainly bring its transparency up so that it is not there. And then, of course, increase its shininess so that they have a little bit of lip gloss on. And we can change the saturation of this so that it's more gray and yeah. And then you can kind of see add a little bit, bring it to there. So you can see not a major change, just a little bit, um, where add in that little bit of lip gloss. And I think Killian is the type that would probably, keep his lips supple. He's a smooth guy. He likes to be um, what's the word? Looked upon favorably. So we can run the idle animation. Yeah, he's looking good there. Like it. Okay. Teeth. Um, Killian will take care of his teeth. He's gonna have some good teeth. So what we'll do is maybe make them not short, but yeah, we'll make them a bit longer. We're not going to give him any. Uh, he's got to have very straight teeth. Let's take a look at the polycanine here because that'll change some shape of the teeth. There we go. And tooth color, like I said, he's going to take care. He's going to have a super white, bright smile. He's very, very, um, and no plaque. He's just went to the dentist. Um, Gum color. Usually, you don't really make a lot of these things. You don't really think about these, but here, we'll give them some nice, healthy looking pinky gums there. Yeah, that's not that big of a deal. And then we can get really weird and just like open the mouth. Open the mouth. So, okay. Cool, cool, cool. And then we can give them the happy smile. Surprise. Okay. All right, back to the face. There we go. All right, so that does it for that. Eyes. Now, Brian never really sent me the color of Killian's eyes. And MetaHuman doesn't really give you the choice to do wild, vivid colors like they do with the hair. So you can't have purple eyes. You can work within a lot of the standard human spectrum. So you can do what you can. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Um, for Scalera, you can make it like super bright, and that's it's actually I tend to want it to be a little brighter so that you have that contrast between the iris and the sclera. Only because we're going to be doing some post processing with Photoshop, and that's going to potentially muddy things a little bit. So if you can get that contrast up, then more power to you. Um, then we go to the iris, and I think these are good. I think we could choose in here. See if I have a. We can go in on the eye here, and we can kind of focus in on the. Oops, don't want to do that yet. These tiny little decisions are like I said, they're the small little things, but I do them first because it helps me for whatever reason. Okay, I think I kind of want to give them a little bit more like mages can have weird little things like that. So yeah, I kind of dig it. I dig it. Okay, cool. We'll do that. That works well for me. All right. Okay, this is actually getting kind of long, um, but that's okay. I'm I'm here for the duration of this process. I might have to stop and get ready to go to my 9 to 5, but we're not there yet. Okay, so we got the eyes, we got the teeth, makeup. Sometimes I will do eye makeup, just because it it's funny. No, because sometimes just a little bit of thin eyeliner can make an eye really pop, and obviously we can drop this to be transparent or whatever. You don't need to have the full smoky vibe, but I still like the character with nothing, just no eyelashes and all that. So okay, skin. So this is where you're gonna get like the skin texture, and this can actually do a lot. Um, I don't think Killian is going to be freckled, so we're just gonna just get rid of that. Um, like I said, he's very affluent. He is a millionaire. He is going to, and he likes some of the finer things in life, and he uses magic to that purpose oftentimes. So um, he is going to probably have some pretty smooth features. So here, this is kind of like they have general areas on the face. The forehead, the nose, the cheeks, jowls, um, and you can kind of add more yellow or red to those areas, the saturation of it, and how much light that it kind of goes through. So, if he were a character that I was saying spent a lot of time outside and worked, in that regard, then I would give him more of a, some red on the forehead and the nose and the high cheeks to represent that sun coming down. And then I would probably lower the saturation a bit because yeah. But that's not Killian. Killian is going to be probably a little bit more um, balanced. So we can kind of clear selected. In fact, I'm going to clear all so that we have very base. If I want to make any changes to this later, I will. But I'm going to say clear all just so that I have a kind of a clean, clear palette. And then from here, we've already said no freckles because again, we want kind of that clean, clear, I don't have any blemishes type of person. Then this is where it gets really interesting because not making any changes to the physical geometry of the model, um, changing the texture can change the face. So you can have this very young, smooth look, or you can have this very weathered, older look. And there's a lot of options in between. Crazy, I know, right? Um, Killian, kind of, there are some backgrounds to this character. Yes, he is rich and he does use his influence for his own beautification, but he's also seen a lot. He is definitely one of those characters who did bad things to get good results. So I tend to associate a lot of that with like how the eye comes across. Usually there's some darkness around the eye. We can accentuate that a bit with the accents, but I think kind of digging, yeah, kind of digging that a bit. Yeah. Roughness, as all things in Unreal Engine, is just shininess. So how shiny do we want Killian's skin to be? And he's not wearing foundation or anything, but or makeup. So this is just gonna be straight up his skin. Um, Looking at my reference, see what it looks like on the outside. In a studio. I think that's about right. Okay. So here's our smooth face base for Killian that we've picked out. And he's got this kind of the subtle purple colorization there in the hair. Just for my amusement, let's see what the short coil would look like. I mean, it's nice. I like it. It could be a variation. Yeah, still like that. I'm probably going to bring up some of the value here, probably up to 12. I mean, when we bring this into Photoshop, we're going to be enhancing um, contrast and hue, so we'll probably see a bit more of that. Okay, so back to the skin. So now we've got this very, got the skin kind of smoothed, but this is what it looks like in the studio mode of the game, of the system. So more realistically, how would they look in a portrait studio, or how would they look outside? Um, I think this is important to kind of know what it really looks like. So, or what it would really look like inside, for example. Um, so I'm going to take the inside, and there's going to be a couple things that I want to do. I want to make the skin a bit darker, but I don't want to make it too red. So we're going to increase this value to 90. And we're probably going to lower this. Oops, no, it's still going towards red territory. We're going to raise this. Probably. You know, I kind of dig the idea of getting this kind of colorization. This almost looks like a person who has gone through death. How does that look outside? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's bring this down a bit to 95. Give him a little bit of coloring. And how far do we want to go? That's maybe a tinge too dark. I mean, I kind of dig it. Actually. Let's go there. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Let's see what it looks like outside. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So we have successfully, I believe, done all the kind of surface work. Now we're going to try and tighten it up a bit and get the actual model to be more in line with what Brian is envisioning. And I think we're pretty close already. We might want to make the face a bit thinner. So, and maybe, man, I'm really liking this. It's looking really good. Okay, So the outside is difficult because you don't have like even lighting. Portrait definitely puts you in a little bit more even lighting. And studio, yeah, let's makes it a little easier to see when you're making those adjustments to different pieces. So we got the face all centered up here. He's staring at us. Love those eyes. Okay. So notice here on the left hand side, you've got a couple different options here. You can blend by finding other metahumans um, that you can mix features with, and that's a cool thing to do. And I usually kind of do that if I'm making characters that are related. Um, if they have like this, the same parents or they have an ancestor. I did this with one of the characters whose um, ancestors is a vampire that's still around, and so I made the vampire based on her model and just kind of switched things up and added a couple different other people's features. But blending is not my go-to. I am still more into the actual sculpting. Now, Killian's a very attractive guy, so we're going to keep symmetry on. If I am working and I want the character to look more realistic, or I want to make them off, maybe even ugly in some cases, then I would turn symmetry off and I would make features just off. It adds a bit of realism, but if you exaggerate it, you can make a person not as attractive because us as humans are very keyed into the symmetry of a person's face and body. And that's where a lot of our beauty standards come from. I think for this, I might want to make the eyes a little bit more outward. So we're going to make them all bug out, but yeah. Do that. Raise that a bit. Kind of like yeah, based on what I got with Brian reference. Yeah. I like it. I think that's, didn't even have to make a whole lot of changes there. Let's switch up the ears a bit so it's not entirely the same. There, just a little. Okay, so next we're going to do a little bit of sculpting. Already the face is changed enough and actually looks a lot more like Brian than I was expecting. Um, but I want to move some of these features in a bit. Actually, yeah, maybe just a little. And jaw up a little. There. And he's thin, so we're gonna thin that up here just a bit. Yeah, maybe bring it in there. Yeah. How's he look smiling? That's silly. Come on. Come on, Unreal Engine, do better. Okay. Yeah. We can Wow, completely different character there. Okay, I like that. 95, 95. That's pretty spot on. Yeah, I like it. I think that's a good Killian. I am going to sign off on that. See, not a whole lot of work had to be done there. Killian's already an attractive guy. Most of the metahuman models again are. Oh, I'm getting a notification that I only have a few minutes left on my metahuman session. Well, fine. That's perfectly fine. So here we go. We've got our metahuman. He is staring at the camera. We're gonna make one shot here. We're going to. So MetaHuman here has a series of different animations and facial poses. Um, you can watch the idle animation of or the happy animation where he's just like kind of hi and hi and hi. Um, and here's the more serious idle animation. Um, and you can get some interesting things by moving the camera around. You can get some different shots. Um, and I've used this to make a lot of different expressions for the characters. I showed that earlier, but so I'm going to use these two without having to unpack the model and send it into Unreal and do all these animations. You can, and I have been taking screenshots of the characters in this environment. Now we're gonna keep it in the portrait studio because that's got the kind of best lighting. But if I was going with, oh no, did I just get kicked out? No, I did not. Did I? Am I actually getting kicked out of MetaHuman? Oh no. Yep, I got kicked out of MetaHuman. My session has ended. Let's see if I can get another session. Please hold. We're gonna get one good screenshot, and I'm gonna show you what we're doing with that and how we work with that. So, come on, MetaHuman, come a little closer. There we go. And we'll pull up Killian. I'm glad that we were able to save him before we got kicked out. This can take a couple of minutes. Please don't take a couple of minutes. Just come on. There we go. All right, and you can see that MetaHuman hasn't even updated the thumbnail for the character's screen. Um, all right, cool. That's fine. All right, so here is my new friend Killian. We are going to try and find a good spot. So what I normally do is I go through the different animations and I try to find one of something that represent like a still frame of the character that I think will work. And yeah, I think that will work. I think that is good. I'm going to change the hoodie because the character himself actually does have a specific hoodie that he wears. That is just a standard black hoodie. So we're going to drop that down. Details, graphics. He would knowing Brian playing the character, he would absolutely be down with a no. Yeah, we'll do that. It's not going to show in the screenshot, so it's not that big of a deal. And I can always change it later. Okay. So there we go. There's our MetaHuman. Let's go to the face. Let's go to the idle animation. And we'll see what we can find. Oops. Yeah, I like it. Get a little bit of an angle there. Cool. So we'll take that into this space. And we'll give a little bit of headroom here. Yeah, we'll put it right about there. Okay, so now we're going to take a screenshot and we're going to pull that into Photoshop. So here's pretty straightforward, print screen, and then we pull up Photoshop. And if you make a new image, it's going to take the entire screen. I have two monitors here, so it's going to look a little weird, but boom. You can then paste that, and there you go. I also, because I know I'm going to try and like put a specialized background and make that work for the character, I'm going to also select the silhouette option. And what this will do is make a very fast and easy mask. So, boom. Now I've got that pose, rendered and also with an alpha. And we'll show that here next. At this point, normally I would make a lot of different choices. I would go through and depending on the character, in some cases I would choose different lighting. Um, like if they're a digital character, I'd make it look a little bit. I'd use like the Matrix, right? I would go here and I would be like, okay, you're outside on a rooftop in the middle of New York, Matrix style, and you'd get kind of this green palette. Um, and also, I would go through and I would make, this is Killian when he's happy, and this is Killian when he's mad. And I would grab different screenshots um, of Killian in these moments, along with the alpha, and I would create a series for the token. But for brevity's sake, we're gonna just keep with the one. Okay, so we've got our one model, one pose. We're gonna forget that we were ever using MetaHuman at this point. We're gonna go strictly into Photoshop at this point now. So let me leave, and here we are, Photoshop. As you can see, we got a lot of everything, but we don't need a lot of everything. We are going to kind of pare it down, crop it so that we have a good base for our token. So first steps first is to cut everything out. So I'm going to get as big of a spot as possible without capturing any of the craziness. Holding down shift to keep it square. That may not be important completely, but I think there. Yeah. So go in, crop, and here we are. We've got a image here. What I like to do is then take the alpha layer and the silhouette that they use, they don't give a very solid background. You've got gradients across the board. So if you're trying to use it for transparency, it doesn't quite work. You need to tighten it up quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all that, copy. We're going to make a new. Oops. We're going to make a new image. Actually, before I do that, reverse. I do these tokens at a specific resolution. I've got it all kind of figured out in my head. And so when I make these tokens, they're all going to, the base portrait is at 1080 square. So I'm going to bring that up first. Now I'm going to select all, copy, new, and paste. So here we are in this image here. First thing I want to do is I want to turn it to grayscale. I don't necessarily need to flatten it. And now that it's in grayscale, I am, if I were doing multiple images at once, I would, and I'm going to do it the same way here. I'm going to create a adjustment layer, and I'm going to go to levels. And I could do the levels on an individual layer, but if I have multiple layers that are all kind of the same in this regard, what I'll do is I'll make this one adjustment layer that will affect all the layers underneath it. And I will select this little white eyedropper, and I will use it to find kind of the darkest white area, so to speak. And in MetaHuman, I've found that that's usually around 22 to 23% key, which is just black. So I click that, and you can see we get a much brighter all white background. It basically takes all the values that are under 23% K and just turn it all 0. So now I've got a very bright black, bright white. I want to do the same thing in the reverse. I want to go with the black, and I want to kind of sharpen up the edges a little bit, because if you notice, the center is darker. You can see it's at 98% key, and then you get a little out to the edges there, and it's 97, 96. I like to kind of click on it at around 96, and it'll make everything blacker in that silhouette. So now we've got this blacker silhouette. We go from here where we got a lot more grays to a lot more, like we can cut this out. So once we have that, we can go into channels. If you hold down the control key and select a channel, it will select all the white. It's not necessarily what we want. We want to actually inverse that. So if you hold down Control Shift I, it'll inverse that selection. And then down here, you've got the add layer mask. So boom, I've now got it, and it doesn't look any different, right? But here's the key. Without that layer mask, it would just look like this. But with the layer mask, I can now have a transparent background. So that's what we got going on here. I am also going to cleverly redo that, because as you can see, I've got these icons at the top, and that's just annoying. So I'm going to go onto this layer. It's going to be weird because if I don't have the layer mask, it's just going to be like this weird white square in the corner, and I'll show you that in a second. But with the layer mask, you can't even tell, or not the adjustment layer. With the adjustment layer, you can't tell. But if I turn the adjustment layer off, you can see there's just like this weird white rectangle in the corner. All right, so now we just go back into the channel, select the white, inverse it so that we have the black, and then make the layer mask, and we can confirm that it's there and doing its thing right there. Okay, so next I'm going to take that layer, and I'm going to hold down Shift and bring it over to the original image. And there we are. We've now got this. And it doesn't look any different. We haven't made any changes, right? But if I take the mask that I made and I get rid of those guys, I now have Killian without a background. I can now throw any background I want in there. I can do any edits that I want to it, and we can make a pretty awesome looking token based on this. So, what's our next step? Well, next step is we want to figure out where is Killian. Killian is typically a city guy. He's going to be on the streets. He's going to be doing graffiti. He's going to be doing art. He's a graffiti artist at his core. So I might have an image that will work for that. I'm just going to quickly try and find something that's in the Seattle area. You know what? I'm going to find my Atlanta picture because the character is from Atlanta and that is his base of operations. Oh, I know I've got a picture of Atlanta somewhere. Or I don't. That doesn't make sense. I know I have Atlanta somewhere. Let us. Ooh, yeah, I know where it's at. I will find it. Settings. Atlanta. All right, so here's a nice little skyline of Atlanta. And we can borrow that for this token. Cool. That also kind of gives us our lighting scheme and all that other stuff, how we want to do this. I'm going to edit this down a bit so that it's not so blurry, not so big, and kind of like the iconic Atlanta skyline. And I want some of it to show up in the token because the token is going to be circular. So definitely don't want too much on the edges. But I think yeah, that'll work. And we're going to now make some adjustments to all these layers. Backgrounds I tend to make a little bit more dark to make the character pop, and of course to get it all looking good. So with these two layers, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them into adjustment layers. That way I have control over all the, or smart objects. Turn it into a smart object so that I have control. Smart object. And with the Atlanta background, we are going to do some adjustments. First adjustment that I almost always will do is going to be levels. That's going to really kind of help easily suss out, the brightness and the contrast. And we've got a couple different algorithms to pick from. I'm going to choose the light and dark colors because I really kind of dig that. And then we're going to go into hue and saturation. I'm going to adjust the saturation up because we're going to be doing a bit of a painterly thing. We're going to try and make it look more like it was painted. And painting tends to increase the vibrancy of things. So, and we can make adjustments later. But for now, we're going to make these kind of quick decisions. Brightness and contrast. Contrast is like everybody's bane. But this is also a background, so we're gonna not give too much contrast, and we're also going to bring some of the brightness down, make it more like a dusk scene. There we go. And then I might come back to it. All right. So now we've got Killian here, and we want to adjust the levels here. So we can kind of find the rightness of it. I'm leaning towards this. So yeah. And then we're going to adjust the hue and saturation. We're going to, again, bump up that saturation a bit. Not so much that he looks like this, but, kind of bring it into line here. We can, yeah, he's got a bit more color there in his cheeks and his hair. I'm even probably going to go into and add some more vibrancy. Yeah, there. And then we can play a little bit around with the brightness and contrast. We can bring some of that contrast up. He's the subject of the picture, so yeah, we want to do that. Brightness, brighten him up a little bit too. Not much, but there. So now we've got some meat there to the character. Now what I do is I can do a lot of different things, but I'm going to do a color lookup adjustment layer. And what this does is this kind of creates a overall, like it applies a film filter um, to the whole thing. And if I wanted like the bleach black pad, I mean, if I was going for like a very stark sort of thing here, but I'm probably going to go for more of a fall colors look. Maybe go with more futuristic bleak. And this also kind of ties the foreground character with the background so that they don't seem as disjointed. Horror blue. If I wanted to make it late sunset. I think I really kind of liked the fall colors, maybe. Edgy amber. Crisp winter. We don't necessarily need to do any of that either. Also, I'm going to do a quick pixel selection. Give him a little bit more. Okay. Come back to it. We'll figure out blending here in a bit. I think I was a little too harsh on the edges here. All right, well, we'll come back to that. Honestly, yeah, I like this color lookup, but I'm going to adjust its opacity. So that's only about 50. Yeah. Okay, so going back into our layer with the smart filters, I'll then go into the filter gallery. And this is where we kind of make it look a little bit more like a painting. We're not trying to make a photorealistic Killian. And I've got my settings here, and this looks pretty good. This is brush size 3, looks pretty good. But I also want to do that for the background. The background doesn't need to be in perfect focus. So I will blur it a little bit, maybe not that much, maybe by just the 1 pixel or so. And yeah, a little bit of blurriness. And then we're going to go into the filter gallery, and this is going to be larger brush size. This is going to be the, like if you were making a painting, you would make something look blurrier with larger brushes, for larger brush strokes. So here we are, and we can make it more. This also helps if you have a lower res image and you want to still get the idea across. So there we are. We've got that. We can even turn off the blur and see, I may not necessarily need the blur. So yeah, turn that off. That takes care of that. I think I may want to make it even less bright. Yeah, have that. That's the beauty of the smart object, is that you can make adjustments to your adjustments. Okay, I like it. I like that it's a little bit abstract. I like that this is abstract. We can If you want to make adjustments to the filter gallery to make him more or less painted, so you got a lot of things going on here. You can definitely see where that is. You could even amp it up quite a bit and make different choices to its opacity. So, for example, yeah, this is more painted, but you can adjust how much of that is coming through. So, like if you go with 75, you now have this combination paint with the photo-ish, the 3D model, and it looks pretty good. I dig it. Yes, I dig it. So with that, we're going to, I should have done this earlier, but we're going to save it. We're going to save it in the right spot. Yes, I have a bunch of these. I've already got that one. So we're going to say Killian Portrait 02. Okay, so now that I've got all this, I like to preserve things. So I'm going to preserve this layer, but I'm going to turn it off. And then I'm going to render this layer out. So we're going to rasterize that layer. So all the things that we did is going to look exactly the same. But now it's one rasterized layer. Then I'm going to select these pixels. I'm going to inverse. I'm going to just delete it a bit. Oops. There we go. So what I did is I shaved off some of those extra little pixels on the edge to kind of blend it in a little bit. And I kept a black background of the character there so that we have kind of a shadow there. So now, we don't even need that, I think. Yeah, we'll keep it there. All right, so now we have this beautiful picture of Killian. We're almost done. We're an hour and a half almost. But this is just making a simple token, right? Right. So the next thing is I've got a template that I use for my mage tokens. And see if I have it in my recents. Character windows plus tokens. Now this has a lot going on. This has a circular ring that I can adjust the colors on. That ring also has a texture that's based on the mage gold foil. So if you can take a look, you see some of the areas are lighter or darker. That's just for cool little effect. And then I have here in the layers, I've got a bunch of different characters. So I've got Sunny, I've got Winston, I even have Cal, the crow familiar. We've got Celeste and all sorts of different people. Killian is a player character, so I've got different groups for storyteller characters and player characters. And because player characters do tend to have more going on, having more facial things, I'd like to make a group for that. So we're going to make a Killian group. And I'm going to make this decision now. Killian uses a lot of life magic, I believe. I'm going to double check here. So let me just look up the character's stats. Killian Loru. So Killian is a disciple of life, matter, and time. He is very proficient at all of those. Life tends to be colored red. Matter is a little bit more. Oh, pardon me. Matter tends to be brownish or gray, and time is green, sometimes rainbow. At least in terms of like the traditional color representations of these magic systems. But Killian's also like, you know, not adverse to taking life and does get into the down nitty and gritty, so to speak. So I think red, specifically like a dark red, makes sense. So I'm going to adjust the hue and saturation of this to be more in line with that ideal. So it looks like, yeah, negative 50 is going to be a good place to be. Saturation, we could probably bring this down a bit to 85, yeah. And then the lightness, let's go negative 55. Negative, negative 55. Yeah. And now we get this more dark red colorization. That's in line with his previous token. So yeah. And what I do is, because I only keep that one adjustment layer, I make note of what those are. So negative 50, 85, 55. So hue, negative 50, saturation plus 85, light, negative 55. And that way, for all the different characters, you can see I keep a record of what their ring color is. It's not terribly important because, they're just tokens on a board, but it's a good shorthand for saying, hey, this character is good at this. Okay, so now here's the big magic trick. We're going to take this guy, which is saved, and we're going to, and these are all the same resolution. These are both 1080 by 1080. We are going to merge all visible. And we're going to hold down shift and move it here, and it pops it right to the center. We go back to here. If we hit F12, it reverts to the last save. So we're done with that. We don't need it anymore. Here we are. We got Killian. And all these characters have a layer mask that pops in like that. So, and there's Scott's character. There's Brian's character, Killian. And then you just name it. And at this point, we're just going to name it Killian. And there we are. So there we have it. We have created this token for my mage game. Final step, kind of next to final step, we would then save it as a transparent PNG. Now we don't want 1080 images as tokens. I have selected this resolution of 420 for a couple reasons. It's divisible by 70 and by 60. So some of my games, so the default grid size in Roll20 is 70 pixels. But I have found that because I'm planning to do a lot of this with streaming, that I want it to be divisible by 60. I want the grid to be 60 by 60 because that will fit 1080p. So 1920 by 1080 Both are divisible by 60, but not 70. So if I make the grid 60, then it's easier to space things. Um, so I came in on this 420 um, resolution because I wanted to I was creating some standards for myself, and that's just my standard at this point. Um, Certain characters might have bigger tokens. We're gonna put this in season 2 tokens, and boom, Killian token 01. Now bringing that into Roll20. No longer need Photoshop. We're good there. We no longer need this, so we can. Do you want to save changes? Nope. There we go. So now let's pop open that, and we'll pop open this. As you can see, we've got the token here. I'm going to go to my token page. We have our old token here. We have the new token. And you can just drag and drop it right in there. Boom. Now we've got Killian, a better version of that token. And we can use that for anything and everything in Roll20. Well, that was fun. An hour and a half of showing you a little behind the scenes of the process that I go through to create these customized tokens for my players and for my NPCs. I hope you found it enjoyable. Of course, you can always show your appreciation by subscribing to our YouTube channel here at the Dahlia World Garden. Thank you for your time. It has been a pleasure. And keep creating. And maybe next time we'll do other things with the tokens in Roll20. But for now, have a good night. Thank you.